Hey guys, it's me, Rich. You're not going to believe what Dana Bash walked into. RFK Jr. sat down across from CNN expecting a soft landing. And instead, he spent the next 15 minutes putting the network's entire COVID-19 coverage on trial, live, on camera, with nowhere for Dana Bash to hide. In today's video, we're breaking down every moment Kennedy cornered her, the censorship, the vaccine data she couldn't produce, and the lockdown blame game that blew up in her face. But on the other hand, CNN's already scrambling to spin this. And if you stick with me to the end of this video, you'll see exactly why the spin isn't going to work. Let's get into it. All right, guys, welcome back to RPW Media. Look, if you're new, like, subscribe, and comment, and thank you very much. Okay, so here's the setup. Robert F. Kennedy Jr., the Secretary of Health and Human Services and the leading guy in the MAHA movement, walked into a CNN studio on Sunday. Now, normally when a Republican-aligned official sits down with CNN, you already know how it's going to go. Dana Bash gets her gotcha questions lined up. The guest plays defense for 20 minutes. Everybody goes home. Nothing changes, except Kennedy apparently didn't get that memo. Dana Bash probably thought she was setting up another one of those predictable little traps. Kennedy had other plans. And right there should tell you that this interview was not going to go the way CNN's producers drew it up on the whiteboard. Instead of politely accepting CNN's version of the COVID-19 years, you know, the version where everyone followed the science perfectly and anyone who disagreed with it was a menace to society. Well, Kennedy turned around and confronted Bash about the media's own conduct during the pandemic. He accused the network on air of helping authorities silence dissent while dressing up questionable policy as settled science. That's not a small accusation, guys. That's the kind of thing that makes a network's legal department pretty nervous. Okay, it started out when Kennedy argued something that honestly should not be controversial, that protecting constitutional rights should remain the government's first responsibility, even during a health emergency, even during a pandemic, especially during a pandemic, actually, since that's exactly when governments get tempted to forget about it. Give this a watch.
We need to protect our constitutional rights. That is the primary obligation of our country. What does that mean? Well, during COVID, we completely dismantled our constitutional rights. We began censoring people in violation of the First Amendment.
But I'm not, you're saying what not to do. I'm asking what to do. But I want to talk about.
That's something to do. That is the number one priority. We protect the Constitution.
He says that is something to do. Make it a priority to protect the Constitution.
Forgive me, but you're talking about rights, and I'm asking about a potential public health crisis that is coming.
But I do
want to
And one of the mistakes we made in the last time was suppressing those rights so people weren't being heard. The doctors who were saying you're doing it wrong were being marginalized and vilified.
Yeah,
and
because again, I really want to move on. But
you
were saying
yes, I do. You were part of the problem.
No, I wasn't part of the problem.
There was absolute press malpractice. You weren't allowing
Mr. Secretary,
your job is a fierce skepticism toward authority. And you weren't doing that. You were beating up on people who were dissenting.
No. Okay, you want to sit here and attack me, or do you want to have conversations
she's
about
a victim now.
I'm not attacking you. I'm asking questions about how to prevent the next
question. I'll tell you.
That's what I'm trying.
Guys, this was a long overdue moment for CNN. Guys, Kennedy called out the network on the air for helping to silence dissent during COVID. They censored people. Dana Bash was getting visibly irritated after she repeatedly tried to move the conversation away from the censorship. Then he aimed his fire directly at Dana Bash. She predictably did not appreciate hearing any of that. And Kennedy did not appear to be losing much sleep over her feelings on the matter. Of course, she wanted to move on. I mean, CNN spent years helping officials discredit physicians who dared to challenge the approved COVID narrative by Dr. Fauci. Revisiting that record means someone at the network has to actually explain what happened. And nobody there wants to be one holding that microphone. Kennedy refused to let her off the hook that easily. Watch this.
I want to talk about.
Cite me the study that you're talking about.
I am not here to defend.
Cite me the study.
This is not productive. I am not here to defend all of the. Let me
You're
finish.
talking nonsense. You're making assertions you can't support.
You're talking
and then
nonsense.
When I call you on them, you're telling me that I'm arguing.
Okay,
with
do you want to talk about assertions that you can't support? I'll get there in a second. Let me just say, for the record, that I am not saying that the entire way that the COVID reaction was accurate. It was a scary time, and people made mistakes. Absolutely.
You were scaring people.
Why are you saying that?
Because that was the job of CNN.
Okay.
Was to put the
stop.
chyrons up about how many people are dying.
We were trying to we were listening to the leaders in this country, including the president, who had a daily press conference explaining what was going on and trying to listen.
Were you listening?
I want to talk to measles.
Actually, were you reading the
measles?
Yeah, actually, he just nailed her. That may have been the most devastating moment CNN has ever faced live on the air. RFK Jr. looked Dana Bash in the eye and accused CNN of abandoning its duty as journalists during COVID, helping shut down debate and scare millions of Americans instead of following the science. And here's the detail that I think a lot of people forgot about. Remember that COVID death toll Chiron CNN ran 24 hours a day during every show during the Trump administration? The one that just so happened to vanish the moment Joe Biden was sworn in. Same virus, same deaths. Well, actually, more people died under Biden, but a different Chiron policy. It's funny how that works, right? Kennedy said the quiet part right to her face. He said, yeah, of course you want to move on because you were part of the problem. Bash immediately denied any responsibility, which again is shocking absolutely no one. The corporate press does not do self-reflection, especially when the topic is Anthony Fauci, censorship, or COVID policy. CNN didn't just report what health officials said. They treated it like it was gospel truth. And if you had the audacity to ask a legitimate question, you got smeared as dangerous, ignorant, or dishonest. I mean, it was simple as that. I mean, you were spreading misinformation. You should be arrested, right? Then came the part of the interview where things really came off the rails. Bash apparently thought she'd finally found Kennedy's soft spot. She warned him she wasn't going to let him make claims she considered untrue and squared up on the vaccine. Give it a watch.
I also don't want to use this interview to allow you to say things that aren't entirely true. You're talking about therapeutics, fine.
That's what they do every day at CNN.
It is true that the COVID vaccine worked. The COVID vaccine prevented deaths. There is data upon data upon data. Let's talk about the measles, please, because this is something that is happening as we speak. The cases in the U.S.
vaccine protected children.
I think that what I have talked to scientists and doctors about.
Scientists. Can you show me one study?
Yes, I can.
That shows that
I can.
Children were protected by the COVID vaccine.
I can tell you that there are.
That vaccine did more good than harm to children. Can you show me one study that shows that?
I can tell you that when it comes to the vaccine, there have been studies that show that because of vaccine disinformation, there could have been 100 to 200,000 lives in the U.S. saved. But because people didn't get the vaccine, that's why. I'm not saying that it entirely.
You are saying nonsense. You are saying something that you cannot show me a single study.
I am not saying nonsense.
You are talking what somebody told you.
Excuse me.
And you cite me.
Guys, she can't handle that she's no longer in control.
What study?
No, what studies are you talking about? You're talking about studies that actually don't exist.
Oh, that don't exist. Okay. So RFK Jr. exploded on Bash. You are saying nonsense. I loved it. Kennedy refused to let her move on as she declared that COVID vaccine worked. I mean, he challenged Bash to cite a single study that the vaccine did more good than harm for children. I mean, think about this, guys. We know that the children got like the sniffles, if that, right? Children were not really seriously going to be harmed by COVID-19. I mean, and she never named that study. Now, here's the moment I really want you to sit with. Bash had every opportunity right there to name a study, the authors, the findings, anything. Instead, she reached for the classic move, vague claims about misinformation and disinformation and preventable deaths. No citations attached. Kennedy simply asked her to name one single study showing the vaccine did more good than harm to children. And he asked it because, let's be honest, kids were barely touched by this virus. A light case of the sniffles, if that. For years, Americans were told to trust the experts, trust the science. Fauci at one point basically claimed that he was the science himself. You remember that? And we're rarely invited to actually inspect the evidence themselves. So when Kennedy asked for one specific study, just one, not two or three, just one, on live television, and Bash came up empty, that's not a gotcha, guys. That's just what happens when you've been repeating a talking point for 4 years without ever checking the homework. I mean, think about that. CNN will probably burn a few news cycles producing fact checks to clean this up. Maybe a panel or two of familiar experts, what I like to call the narrator engineers, explaining why you shouldn't just trust what you literally just watched with your own eyes. That's the whole business model over there. Kennedy also laid out, in order to prepare for the next pandemic, we have to first acknowledge that we did virtually everything wrong the last time. Oh, man, watch this.
How do you prepare then? How do you prepare for the next pandemic? I mean, that's literally part of your job now, because experts think it's going to happen within the next 10 years again.
Yeah, I mean, I think we did virtually everything wrong the last time.
So what about now?
The principal thing that we need to do is we need to listen to what's happening to doctors on the ground. There are 15 million frontline physicians around the world. They're mainly now connected through the internet. We can tell on the front lines what's working and what's not.
Exactly.
If we had listened to those doctors during the COVID pandemic, we would have saved potentially millions of lives. There were therapeutics out there that were working. There were doctors that were having no deaths from COVID and treating, in some cases, thousands of patients. And we weren't listening to them. Instead, we were.
Right, exactly. So his point wasn't complicated, guys. Doctors actually treating patients should have been listened to. Government officials shouldn't have suppressed inconvenient medical opinions just because they threatened the official narrative. And the government definitely shouldn't have leaned on social media companies to censor people questioning COVID policy or doctors sharing what was actually working for their patients. I remember watching Facebook. There was a video. It was a summit of doctors from around the world who were talking about how they were treating their own real live patients and that their protocols were working, and Facebook shut it down. They shut it down for misinformation. These were licensed medical doctors from around the world trying to help people. Then Bash came out and said that Kennedy had been placing all the blame on Fauci. And she asked if Trump should shoulder some of it too. Listen to his response. It's brilliant.
You have been placing nearly all the blame on the COVID pandemic and the way that the U.S. responded to it squarely with Dr. Fauci. But of course, he worked for President Trump. Does President Trump also deserve some of the blame?
Well, President Trump, as you recall, wanted to end the lockdowns. I think the thing that did the most damage to our country was the lockdowns that shut down 3.5 million businesses in our country with no due process, no just compensation. All of our churches closed, our schools, and our children are still paying the price for that. And yet we had the worst outcome of any country in the world.
How so?
We had the highest death rate from COVID of any nation.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Kennedy pointed out that Trump was against the lockdowns. I remember he was, because he wanted businesses to be able to open again so people could get their jobs back. I mean, they were the single most damaging policy of the entire pandemic. And then for the finale, Kennedy basically called Bash a parrot to her face for reading whatever science she's handed instead of actually checking it for herself before going on air. She's lazy and she's ideological. That's what he's pointing out. Give this a watch. This is great.
You are the HHS Secretary, and you are talking about things that lead to vaccine hesitancy in this country. And it is something that causes problems for people when there is not anything.
Let me ask you something. Do you see your job as ending vaccine hesitancy, or do you see your job as telling the truth to the American people?
I see my job as telling the truth, and the truth is that
nonsense.
There is study after study after study. It's one of the most studied things out there in science.
You're repeating
and it is
like a parrot. You're repeating it like a parrot.
So
I've actually read the science. You don't want to come back here and debate the science.
I'm not debating this with you.
Of course you won't.
No, because I'm not
all
debating.
All you know how to do is repeat things that people told you and say, trust the experts. That's what you do.
He's pointing out what a phony she is.
During COVID.
Yeah, I love this.
Now we know that Anthony Fauci, who was the expert, was lying about everything, about masks, about social distancing, about natural immunity, about the transmission from the vaccine, about the source of COVID. He was lying, and you were punishing people for not trusting the experts. And now you're rolling out the experts again to talk about something that you have no personal knowledge of.
Okay, well, guess what? That is my job, to talk to people.
Your job is to
tell the truth to the American public. Yes, and my job is to get as much information as I can. And what we were doing, in COVID and still, with regard to these vaccines, is getting the best information, the best science that we can.
BS. I call BS, guys. They were doing everything in their power to get rid of Trump. And that was to make COVID look like the most feared virus that ever hit. You were going to die if you went outside. Your kids couldn't even go to school. I mean, you had to shut down your business. No jobs.
And putting it out there. And, sir, what you are doing is causing information to be out there that is not accurate.
Who was lying to you?
Oh, man, guys, that was beautiful. I was waiting 4 years for that. So here's where this all lands. The interview took a turn that Bash clearly never saw coming. Kennedy took control of the conversation, put CNN's entire COVID coverage under the microscope, and left one of their top anchors scrambling to justify decisions the network would very much prefer nobody ever bring up again. The libnuts are already all over social media trying to put a spin on this to give CNN any favoritism that they can, but it's not working. CNN, still the least trusted name in news. I mean, look, whatever you think of RFK Jr., the upside here is simple. For 15 minutes, someone with a microphone on a major network refused to let the old narrative go unchallenged. And the questions he asked, name the study, acknowledge the mistakes, and the questions that he wouldn't let her get away with, protect people's rights next time. They're questions any honest person should be able to answer without flinching. That's a good sign for where this conversation is actually finally heading now in the United States. All right, so tell me what you think about this in the comments below. I want to hear from you guys. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one.